Yeah, I don't know. It can be really, really scary just because now if you're ever up kind of this far in the lane, it's tough for you to ward for yourself. But let's see how you play around it. Okay, this is really tough. So I think yeah, after you get this ward, I think you probably should commit to walking this way. I think if Sylas E's onto you here, you have like a really long time to kind of chase him down. You know, like you can Q him and you can maybe get like 3 autos on him. I think if you just walk out in the open like this, you're not really going to get any help from your creeps. And also you have less space to chase him down. So if he hits the E on here, I think it's just a really good trade for him. It still ends up decent, but I think you take a lot more damage than you need to here. Nice autos though. I think this is maybe a bit too long, so the initial autos are good. Like right now, I think this is all really good, but I think chasing him all this way while you're getting like autoed by his creeps probably makes the trade not super worth it. Like all this time, you're taking damage from a full creep wave, which doesn't look too good. So one concept that I think is kind of important is if you're a champion that can poke, right? Like if you're Syndra, you can normally poke your opponent without taking damage in return. So there's like this concept of 50 zero trades compared to 100 zero trades or 150 trades. So what that means is like if you deal 50 damage and you take 0 in return, normally that's better than dealing 100 damage and taking 50 in return. And the reasoning is that you can normally just repeat this over and over and your opponent gets low and you take no damage. But by doing this, you're kind of giving your opponent a window to hit you back. Now, the only reason this wouldn't be true is if you can all in your opponent, but they can't all in you. So let's say you're playing like Syndra versus Corki or something. Like clearly you can just trade like this because Corki will never kill you, but you can kill Corki. But Sylas, yeah, I think it's much better just to take the one-sided trades. So right here, I think this is really good. You're punishing the cooldown, trading autos. But I think here, I'd probably back out after this because you take an extra, like, I don't know, probably an extra 100-ish damage on the way out. I think that's not super worth it. This is good, though. Yeah, nice trade. Like, that's really good. Like, clearly this is really, really in your favor. He has to use E for that CS. He takes 2 autos and a Q, so that's really nice. E level 2. A good positioning. Okay, here, I would honestly, even though you're full mana, well, I don't know, it's up to you. I would probably Corrupting Pot just because I would be kind of scared of being this far up in the lane without a ward. But if you know that you can't get ganked by Ivan, then it's probably fine to save your Corrupting Pot. Like, Sylas, I don't think can all-in you on this health, so it'll really be just to feel scared of the jungler, but I mean, you have a ward still. Maybe you're fine. Okay, that being said, though, your ward is on bot side, and you're kind of hugging towards top side, which is pretty bad. Like, if Ivan comes from here, you're probably going to have to flash. I can see kind of why you're hugging to this side because that's where you've got, more creeps. It's a bit harder for Sylas to eat onto you, but
Yeah.
it's really scary. I mean, this is just kind of the problem with not having a ward. I guess there's not too much you can do about it. I suppose, yeah, maybe. I mean, I think you can still play in this sort of area and it's a bit safer. Now, what happened here? So, okay, yeah, so that trade didn't go amazingly for you, and I think it was just kind of lack of respect for cooldowns. So right here, I think this Q is it's kind of at a bad time. Like I think he's committed to giving up this CS, so you probably don't need a Q. And then the problem with using this Q is now it's on cooldown for when he wants to come up for this creep. I think you can still kind of punish it though, like you walk up for the auto, but you don't have the Q to back it up. I think yeah, that trade's not amazing. He does get the heal. Good Q off the bat. Okay, I think what I would do is, oops, when I use this Q, I would just be like a bit further back, maybe just stand, just, yeah, actually just stand where you were standing originally. And then if he comes up, you can auto him for it without taking anything back. Because again, here, like you trade some damage onto him, but he gets the heal, and you're both just getting lower and lower. But I think it should be that you're just like high HP and he's getting lower and lower. That key's really good. So, okay, some of the stuff, put that there. I think also, yeah, like a little bit of cooldown respect. So like if you use a cooldown, you need to move back a bit further. Maybe also as well, like hugging to the correct side. This one is like harder to talk about just because starting sweeper is really weird, but I think, yeah, I mean, even now, I think it's probably better to be kind of on this side of the lane because you do have some vision bot side and you still don't really have anything top side. And I think hugging this area is quite risky. Okay, so if you're going electrocute, it's normally better to point W at level 3. So yeah, I'm a big fan of 2 points Q, but it's more for poking people down. If you're just looking for an all-in, which I think you definitely can here, it's much better to have the W. So yeah, I probably would have put W level 3 here, and then I think you should be able to pick up a kill, or at least get pretty close. Okay. Yeah, so here comes Ivor, and I think you're just having to flash. Yeah. So kind of forced into flashing. So I think this was really, really weird. So when you push in this wave like this, you have two choices, right? It's like you can probably like back off and recall and get back here in time, and that would be fine. Your alternative is to just like look to heavily harass Sylas under tower because yeah, he's so low that he can't really do anything. But I feel like you didn't do either. So I don't think you should be scared of Sylas going on to you. I think you have enough damage with Ignite. As long as you can Ignite before he gets the heal off, like there's a pretty good chance you win this. And also you can probably Corrupting Pot if you're scared of him, all-inning on you. So I think right here, like this should be, you're really looking to harass him. Like he's used Q already, but you're still like walking back. And I think, yeah, it's like if you're scared of the jungler, then you shouldn't even be here. But if you're scared of Sylas, you're too scared of Sylas. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then yeah, this I think yeah, taking the sweeper at level 1 probably just isn't worth it. It's really difficult to play a champion that crashes 3 waves like this and doesn't have a ward because ideally what you'd want is maybe like right now you could go ward up here and that would really allow you to kind of just like keep harassing here and be as aggressive as you want. So I think yeah, 3 waves crash, which is good. And then like try ward at 230-ish, and that'll kind of allow you to harass when that wave crashes. It's also really important, by the way, that if you are really looking to harass your opponent under tower, that you ward before the wave goes in. Like if you crash this and then you go ward, that's okay, but then you miss out on a lot of harass on the tower. Whereas if you can get like a little bit of downtime somewhere, maybe yeah, like when your Q is down there to go and just drop a shallow ward, then it's really easy for you to harass under the tower. But also I think, yeah, maybe you just need to trust yourself a little more. Because it feels like here, I think you're a bit too scared here, maybe. Like he has used Q and you have E, he's already low. You have another corrupting pot if you want it. I think you have everything there to, kind of punish him for this CS. And it's honestly kind of weird because like you're like backing off, right? And then
Yeah.
so you're like being scared. And then once you use your Q, then you start being more aggressive, which doesn't really make sense. If I think the time you could be most aggressive is probably when he used his Q. So like right here. Now, he shouldn't really be able to do anything to you. You can play as aggressive as you want, but while his Q's on cooldown, you actually back up. And then when you use your Q, you actually move into him. So that just all doesn't really make sense. I think, yeah, cooldown respect and cooldown punishment, I think is something you should think about a lot. You really need to be like noticing, I guess, when he uses a cooldown and really, I guess just like thinking to yourself, what can I get off this? And at the same time, if you use a cooldown, that normally means you need to back up because it's like their turn to punish you, right? So, yeah, I think that's all really important. And yeah, losing the flash here kind of sucks. But it's not the end of the world. Like, the wave is on your side. Okay, I think, though, Hmm. I probably wouldn't push the wave. So the reasoning is that okay, you kind of if Sylas had TP, maybe you would want to push this wave, but he does not. He has really high all-in threat, and right now, it's like you don't have flash and you're not particularly healthy, but you're in a good spot because this wave is pushing to you, and then you can either clear under tower or reset, or you could even try freeze it if you wanted. But the problem is if you push this back out, you're really giving Sylas the windows to trade on you. So you probably know that in most melee versus range matchups, the longer the melee champion has to run you down the lane, normally the worse it is for you. The only reason you really push these first three waves is so one, you can get a ton of harass under tower and you kind of just like, you can almost kill them before they really even get to do anything. And two, because this will always bounce back. Like this wave will always crash and then it'll be pushing back to you. So, right here, you're actually in a great position. Like he's pretty low. The wave is pushing to you, so you should be safe. But if you try and push this out, it's really risky in my opinion. You're giving Sylas the opportunity to trade on you, especially given that you don't have flash, and you also maybe give yeah, I think maybe you just die here, right? Yeah. So I think this is literally just a wave control problem. Um yeah, it's like you don't have flash. Even if you had flash and full HP here, you would probably still want the wave on your side because if Sylas walks up to you here, there's nothing he can do. Like you can also chase him down the lane, right? Like yeah, it's just like if it's in this situation, it's really difficult for Sylas to CS. It makes you really safe from any ganks or anything. And you should just be able to, if Sylas ever walks up, chase him down the lane. So yeah, this doesn't really make a lot of sense. So 3 crash, try ward at 230, and then after that, try wave on your side. Wave on your side is just pretty much always better for 1v1. So wave on your side, it's like easier to CS, like safer from ganks such trades, allows you to chase them down the lane. The only reason you don't really ever, or like, I guess the times you wouldn't want the wave on your side would be if your team is trying to invade or something, like if your Fiddlesticks were trying to invade, but here, right, Fiddlesticks just power farms. And also, later in the game, when you have more wave clear and it's easier to roam, like there's not much point freezing the lane past around, I'd say, 8 minutes or so. So yeah, like past 8 minutes, like freezing isn't that great. But pre 8 minutes, freezing is OP. I just used 8 minutes as kind of like a rough estimate because, well, the Herald spawns at 8, but also just because that's around when people are getting wave clear. So it's just kind of around that time. Yeah, so this is really, really rough because I think Syndra vs Sylas is a matchup where you win, but if you make a mistake like this and you start losing, it becomes really, really tough. Um, like, it snowballs really hard against you. I also think the itemization here isn't very good, so on this base, I would go Dark Seal plus Pink Ward. I think Dark Seal is too good not to have, so I think, yeah, like Dark Seal first base is OP. Did you have enough gold for a pink? You did have enough gold for a pink. I think you really need a pink here as well. So one reason is that you don't have flash. And the second reason is you don't have any wards. Even if you had wards, I'd probably still buy a pink. I think pinks in general, they're a little bit overrated, to be honest, but I think the first pink of the game is really important. Like, if you don't want to buy pinks past the first one, honestly, it's probably fine. But I think having your first pink either like here or here, and that allowing you to put wards like further in works really well. Or alternatively, if you really don't feel safe doing that, you can even, pink here and ward here. Just if you don't have a pink, you're going to have pretty much no vision whenever you don't have wards. And there will be times when your trinket is down. And here, right, it's even worse because you still have red trinket. So I'd swap this back to yellow trinket and buy a pink. And that would just allow you to be quite a lot safer here. Okay. This is good. I like the slow push. There's, not much else you can do, I feel like. Silas is probably going to have pretty strong items here. Yeah, he does have the boots. Okay, so I think you want to probably just crash this and then have it reset to you. Yeah, I like just autoing, keeping your cooldowns. Okay, he uses Qs, so you can maybe look for some sort of punish. Level 5 or level 4. Okay, so this wave, you kind of really need to make sure this wave goes in. Yeah, it's tough. So this is kind of just the same thing. I feel like you just have no flash and you don't have any wards, and there's also no safety. So one thing you should get into the habit of is just looking at both sides of mid and checking where your safety is. You know, like, is your jungler in the river? Is there any wards in the river? But if you just like pause at this moment, you don't have safety anywhere. And I think if you're in this situation where you have no flash, no ward, you know, like literally nothing to go on, you probably just want to clear this wave from as far back as you can. You know, stand back here, try like last hit the wave with Q, and then walk away. But here, it's like you're not aware of the fact that you're even vulnerable here. You know, like no vision, no flash, no idea where the jungler is. I actually think this would be a great trade, 1v1. But the problem is you just don't, yeah, you just don't know. So you just die again here, which is, yeah, it's kind of the build up of wards. So I'd say for warding, like trinket for early game is so important. You can't really play the early game without a trinket unless your jungler is going to ward for you, which doesn't happen very often. And one pink ward is really OP. I also think something that I'll put it under the warding section, but just in general, like, you really need to check both sides of mid to see like where the safety is. And by that I just mean like, you know, your vision and jungler and stuff. And if you don't see any safety, like, okay, let's say right now you walk out of base and you're like this can be something you do while you're walking to lane. So like right here, you have a lot of time to think about stuff. Okay, you see Ivan bot, but we have no vision top side and no vision bot side. So it could be kind of sketchy pushing in this lane. I mean, maybe you could fast push with Ivan bot, but I just think that, yeah, it's like you have no vision and you have no way of really getting it. Another good habit is you really don't want to walk past say like this point here if you don't have a ward, because yeah, it's just like really scary and you're kind of just hoping the jungler isn't there. So that's another good habit, is to just like yeah, try not to cross like halfway of mid with no wards. So yeah, I actually think all these deaths are really avoidable, and you could probably have killed Sylas as well if you know, didn't die. So that's kind of good. Like I actually think this is kind of easy to fix. Okay, so you go tier. I also don't like the tier, so I think Syndra doesn't really use enough mana to warrant it. Like with her new mana passive, she just uh yeah, she just like regens so much mana.
Oh,
Or is this old
this,
Syndra?
yeah, this
Yeah, I
old,
was
yeah.
just thinking like looking at the item, I mean the abilities, like they don't look okay. So actually, yeah, the tier is fine. Old Syndra, you could definitely go tier. Yeah, okay, I won't worry about it too much. Okay, so now we're back. I think same thing again, like pause, look at the map, no vision top side or bot side. You probably want to just clear this from far away. Yeah, kind of like what you're doing now. And be a little careful about walking further up. You do have the pink ward now, which is good. So I think crash this and then try ward. Yep, this is fine. Okay, this is not really fine. So like, this is your window, basically. While he's clearing this wave, if you want to wait for him to start using abilities on the wave before you walk in, I think that's fine. Like, if you're really scared of him, you know, maybe going to E on you here if Ivan's there. But I think the moment he uses his abilities on the wave, now you can actually go up and ward that, because you know he's not going to go on you. But here, you didn't use that window to get any vision, and now you're this far up in the lane, having not placed any vision. So, when you're using your priority in the early game, so early game prior, like warding is the most important thing, because it's going to allow you to continue to get priority. You know, because if you just push for priority without wards, you're just going to keep dying like you do. Um, and also you didn't use this priority for anything. Like if we just look, okay, like what are our options for priority? It's like, you know, basing, roaming, invading, warding, etc. And you should try have an idea of what you want to do before, you know, like maybe right now you're thinking about what you want to use this priority for. And so that when you actually push the wave, you kind of know what you want to do with it. But then here, I mean, it looked like you were going to war, but then you just decided not to. So not sure why that happened, but this is pretty sketchy. It is sort of hard for you to push, I think, with the enemy. Yeah, like right now, just like looking at the map again, support missing. You don't know where the jungler is. It's very hard to push. If you're respecting support here, I think that's really good. I find it hard to remember sometimes to keep track of the enemy support, but if you can do that, that's really, really good. Okay, so they did drag. Yeah, like see how, by the way, when the wave is in this situation, it's a lot more difficult to Sylas to just kind of dash into you. Okay, enemy support's here, but it doesn't matter. Yeah, so this wave state is super good for you. There you go. This is super nice. So you kind of wanted this earlier in the game before you ended up in a horrible position. I still think pushing the first 3 waves is really good, but yeah, if you'd done this after that Ivan gank, I actually think you'd be completely fine. And you can see, right, like he can't really do anything about it, so yeah, and he's just getting denied off CS, which is really, really nice. Okay. He comes back. Okay. Oh my god, gangbang ult. Okay, so I think this was kind of just a misplay. Like, okay, your 2 tools here are you have E to just get Sylas off you, and you can just stand behind minions, and it's pretty hard for him to do anything, right? So here, you're not behind any minions. It's kind of like LeBlanc, where you need to be behind 2 waves of minions because, you know, LeBlanc will W past the melees and then try hit you, right? And Sylas will dash past the melees and try hit you. So you're kind of like here you're probably fine because you can walk behind these range if he starts walking forward. But I think this one, it's like, yeah, if he goes on you, there's not a whole lot you can do about it. You can E him off you. Like if you use your E right here, okay, this is fine. Like that's actually good. But then you need to back up because you just use your cooldown. So right here, he's used cooldowns. So did you. Now you both kind of just like reset. But you know, you're right here. You're not behind any creeps. You're standing like out in the open basically to where you can get hit by chain. And you don't have E to get him off you. So even if you lived here, you would be forced to base and it would be really bad. So I think it can be really good to think about like how your opponent trades, like what the most important cooldowns are. And for Sylas, it's pretty much always Sylas E. He's gonna try like E past, you know, past the creeps. He's gonna he might Q to slow you first, but you just like need to be really careful of that chain. So at all times, you just need like, you know, stand behind creeps. Like if you don't have creeps, like you can use E, but once again, like that cooldown respect, once you use E, you're really vulnerable. Like if you ever play an assassin, you know, you're playing Zed or Fizz or Sylas or anything like that, the moment Syndra uses E, she goes from being like untouchable to suddenly just really easy to kill. So yeah, this is another death. And I would say at this point, your impact on the game is kind of gone. Like, obviously, the game is winnable, but it's not really up to you anymore. You know, you don't really have much say in this. You can kind of team fight well, but if you just like look at your items and kind of the state of the game, you just, yeah, I don't know, you can't really do a whole lot.
Yeah, I mean, I think I pretty much autopiloted after the second death.
Yeah, I mean, I don't really blame you too much. I think it is definitely difficult to recover this. I mean, you probably can though. So shove this wave. Yeah, this is good. So this is like, you know how I was saying before, how you want to like clear from max range and then, you know, just kind of do whatever. The risk of this is that in very high elos, people will start to freeze this wave, and then the problem will be that you can't crash it. But that is the punishment for being this far behind, is you don't really get to decide what to do with the wave anymore. Fortunately, the Sylas doesn't realize that he can freeze this wave. Because if he freezes right now and you have to walk up with no E, it's really tough. Like you're gonna get traded on. But you know, he lets it crash, which is really good for you. Um, this ward, I think it's fine given that you're kind of behind. I think if you're ahead, you know, you can maybe defend that one, but I actually kind of like it there. And yeah, I like the positioning here, keeping the wave on your side. It's also just like, yeah, you can't really walk up anyway. I think this E is pretty much never worth it. So sure, you get like a tiny little bit of a trade, but this is now 15 seconds again where you can't set up any ganks. Like you're really vulnerable. To be honest, this is something I really struggled with when I was new to the Syndra, is wasting your E, but your E is your most important cooldown. It's even more important than your ult. Like the way you use your E in team fights and on the lane is so important. It's the difference between people being able to, get on you or not. So little Syndra specific, I guess, like E usage, I think. Almost every Syndra has problems with E, but obviously if you get a lot better at it, it makes you a lot better at Syndra. So, okay, I like holding the wave. Yeah, this is kind of... It's tough, because ideally you would want to chase the Sylas upriver, but I think you're just too weak. If you walk into Sylas, you probably die. I think if Sylas shows top, now you should probably one-shot this wave and try hit the tower. Just because you could, while it's nice to freeze and deny, say, like, probably like 80 gold here, if you crash, you can maybe get a plate. So that would be like a bit better trade. Oh my god, he failed flashed. Okay, yeah, I like running here. Oh, why did Jax go that way? Oh my god, he got so lucky. He's like actually out if he just runs with you, but yeah, wow. Okay. So it turned out kind of well. I still think it would maybe be better just to break the freeze and try get a plate here. But this is fine too. Like here, it's great for you because you pretty much only have good options because Sylas roamed at a bad time. So yeah, anything you do is going to be good. It's just about how good, really. This guy has double buffs. Okay, he just used E. Yeah, I like this. So I think even though like you're really behind, so you don't do any damage, but I think this is a really good punish. Like you need to do this way more. He has just used E, and especially once he uses the E2 there. So now you can be as aggressive as you want, which you do. You walk up, you get a trade. I honestly think you could have gone for a WQ there and got electrocute because he has no way of getting on you with that E on cooldown. As long as you go like straight away. So I think that was actually really good. Definitely look for that more often. Wave is really close, so yeah, you don't take any damage. Okay, used E, so now need to be careful. Yeah, like again, same thing. So you get a good trade, right? This is great. Now you just need to make sure you don't take damage while your E is on cooldown. Like, see how you walk back in and get one more auto, but now you allow him to trade like an extra 250 damage back and heal everything. So if that's one thing you take away from this, I think the cooldowns is super important. I'll make a list of stuff at the end, but yeah, that looks like really big for you. Yeah, this is... I don't know. I would probably clear this wave, but this... Yeah, it's tough. Actually, I don't know. No, you have Corrupting Pot. Maybe freezing it's fine. Yeah, no, I think you did the right thing. Yeah, they go bot. There's nothing you can do about this. Such as the reality of being really far behind. So you sell your Dorn's Ring? I think that's kind of bad. Normally it's better to sell Corrupting Pot if you're going to sell something. And honestly, in the early game, you don't normally want to sell Doran's Ring for Lost Chapter anyway. I mean, this is... I think here you have to sell something because you can't really base here and not have Lost Chapter, but I guess it's just another punishment for being really far behind. But yeah, I guess like if I were playing this game, I probably would have... Yeah, I start Doran's Ring with Ignite, and then I pick up a Dark Shield first base, and then hopefully I just try base on the chapter, but yeah, it's kind of awkward. Okay, walking bot, I mean, they are pretty low. You could maybe pick up Lee Sin. Okay, I guess he's out. But you don't really lose a whole lot for this. Like, you get back mid in time.
I want you to know I tilt in this part. He took the wave, so
Oh, yeah. I did not even notice that. Yeah, okay. I think maybe now you should be walking back mid. Like, maybe you do stay here a bit too long. Like, I think by now he's probably gone, right? But yeah, that is really annoying. Because he can probably take cannon and you get the rest, but yeah, he actually stole everything. Yeah. I actually kind of like that, but Fiddle didn't follow up. Actually, I'm not sure I like this just because this guy has Merc Treads and you're double AP mid jungle. That is like a problem Obviously, if you play double AP mid jungle, it makes Mercs really valuable. Um, so yeah, here you probably can't kill just because like the three of you pretty much only deal magic damage, and he's just got enough tenacity that there's no follow-up. So we'll probably just tilt it or whatever. I don't really blame you. That would piss me off too. Okay. This is like really niche, but you can pick up Ivan's thing and just like throw it away or something. That way it won't slow you. Like, you know, just throw it over this wall with your W. Yeah, so you actually could have probably lived. Maybe you still live? Okay, you end up living, but yeah, that was really close. Oh, wait, you died? Okay, yeah, I think now you're kind of just like really tilted. Obviously, I think you just base here. Just, okay, just in case you weren't tilted here, I think we're like kind of talking about the mid game now. It's almost always like better to reset if you have no resources, because the thing is, even though you might be able to pressure the map by staying on low HP, you can normally pressure more if you just base and then come back with full HP. You know, like your pressure level, if you're on the map with low HP, is probably like a 3 or something, right? Like a 3 out of 10. But then if you base and you're like back with full HP, like full resources, you're back to being at your max pressure. So even if you thought you could stay here and live, I think it would still be better to base. So yeah, it doesn't really make sense either way. And now, yeah, now you're probably just like focusing on farming, but again, there is not a whole lot you can do. It is kind of out of your control, in my opinion. So it's pushing the wave. Okay. Get the ward. Get 2 wards. Not bad. It's a lot easier to have Sweeper at this point in the game because you just have way more vision on the map from your team. And also there's just like less likelihood of jungle ganks at this point, at least ones that you don't know about. Okay, so this guy just goes through lane, sort of whatever. Yeah, okay. Sylas, okay, same thing again. I think when you're in team fights or like skirmishes, if you can, unless you're starting the fight with a stun, normally you want to just save your stun so that you can combo with R. Like just use R and then E. Just because it's really guaranteed and it's like a lot of, it's like a lot of area covered. So I think this stun here, it doesn't make any sense because, we saw before that Sylas is like really tanky and pretty much doesn't take, any damage and has a lot of tenacity. So if you stun Sylas here, doesn't do anything. Maybe you're trying to stun Lee, but if you were, then like this was really off, right? So, and now that you've like wasted the cooldown, you need to be really careful how far up you walk because right now you are like Sylas is the main threat to you, right? Because this is a support Lee Sin. Although, to be fair, it is a fed Lee Sin. I think like you really need to be behind your team here the moment you use E, because now it's just like you're a Syndra out in the open with no E. Okay, actually you got away with it, but I think okay, I'm not sure if you thought about that, like the fiddle saving you and all that, but I think just in general it's sort of bad positioning when you use your E. Just being starting to be really just like yeah, think about your E like all the time. The E cooldown and like how you're going to use it and stuff like that. I think that'll make you just way safer in general and more effective. Okay, so you do pick up the W this time. Or pick up the... Yeah, okay, so I really like stuns like this. Like here, you don't have ult, right? So there's no reason to save it anyway. You get a double stun onto 2 here. And now you're walking back when you don't have E. So I think that's all fine. Okay, get the blasting wand. Let's just skip ahead here. I think, yeah, definitely going bot is fine. Honestly, if your team fights and you're not there, could even be good for you, just so that you can kind of free farm the side lane. So I actually really like this. I think a lot of people, when they fall behind, they kind of like just split push because they're, I don't know, angry or something. But I actually think it's quite good. Like splitting from behind is good because even if you die, it honestly doesn't mean a whole lot. And if something else happens on the map, you're always in position to kind of get a lot of gold. So I really like what you're doing here. I think this is a good way to catch up. Chunk out GP. Your team wins a fight without you. Yeah, this is all really good. Okay. Maybe a bit far up, but I actually one-shot the wave. Yeah. And you're just so weak, but you're doing what you can. I think there's nothing really wrong with any of this. Still don't have a item at third drag, which is really sad. Yeah. I think you're right to just stay here. It's not like you're going to add anything to a fight anyway. And now you can get Ludens. Maybe you can get back in time for a fight. Okay, so you got the Ludens. Coming back mid. Yeah, I think this makes... Wait, where's Samira? Okay, Samira's in base. Um... Hmm. It might be better to go top here. I think it is. Just because Samira should be able to farm mid, and then no one is farming top. Yeah. So I think because this dragon is uncontestable anyway, like you're not playing towards it, the mid wave doesn't matter a whole lot. I mean, it's a tiny optimization, but I think, yeah, you can probably go top and Samira can farm mid, and that just makes it a bit more efficient. And maybe you can save that top tower. You probably kill this guy. Yeah, even when you're really far behind, you can still kill him. Okay, so that's really good. Starting to get back into the game a bit. Um, Now, I think you can push this next wave. It is sort of... It's a little greedy, I suppose. Yeah, you're jungler's bot side. Okay, yeah. No, I think you're... Hmm. No, I guess you're fine. And your base. Let's see, what do you buy? You're buying Shadow Flame. Yeah. I guess they just do Baron, and there's just nothing really can be done about it, so just try and farm. I mean, at least you're way ahead in CS over Sylas, but, I mean, it kind of doesn't matter, if I'm honest, when you're this far behind. Yeah, I think if you should probably just stay with Fiddle here and not show. Like, I think there's a much greater chance they engage on the Syndra if you just hide. But yeah, I don't know. It's like I kind of don't think this works anyway, but maybe it's like a bit better if you're not showing. Okay, actually it's gonna work. Okay, I think again the stun usage is kind of off, and also the target priority is off. So before a fight, like we're definitely in the mid game now. So before fights, try and like think about like target priority, like who are the most important targets. So for me, I'd probably say I'd say it's probably Sivir number one because she does damage and she's squishy. Sylas for me would be number two. The thing is, Sylas is like really tanky for you. So ideally you hit someone else. But clearly Sylas is a pretty important target. And then I'd say maybe like, I don't know, Gangplank 3, Lee 4, and Ivern 5. So this is a very low priority target, and he's already like out of the fight. So there's no way, even if Lee lives, if you don't ult him, it's still bad. Like Lee is out of the fight. You want to save your ult for someone useful. And I think here, Sivir is basically frontlining and she's really close to you. Like I think you could even just flash RE Sivir, and then she's like completely fucked. But instead, like if you just watch you compared to Sivir, right? If you use this ult and this E on Sivir, she is just like, if she's not dead, she's like too low to really do anything. But instead, she probably sees that you've just used every cooldown, like the E onto Sylas, and now she can just like hit for free. And so you guys just like take a ton of damage here. So I think again, like really trying to get that RE combo in team fights, and yeah, I think target priority, like here, Sivir is just by far the highest target, and you can... I actually think this fight is winnable. I really think, like right here, honestly, the first bowl you do is quite good, because it's, yeah, it allows you to either pick it up with W, or you can flash ult with it. I think now, yeah, if that R were on Sivir, and then you E, it buys a lot of time for this TP, and Sivir doesn't get to just annihilate you with damage. So yeah, I actually think you would have won that fight. Let alone, like, you know, if you were fed. But even be this far behind, you can still do a lot with your stun. Okay. Yeah, I like what you're doing here. I think you push that, and then you base, and you just try to be strong for Dragon. So, honestly, like the macro you've done for the most part. I think you're just kind of too far behind from laning phase for it to matter, but I think that's really good in my opinion. I think it's normally people struggle a lot more with like the mid game macro and stuff than they do the lane. So if you can fix a lane, which I think is much easier in comparison, or much simpler, I guess, you should have like a really strong foundation to work with. Like you're up 70 CS over Sylas, even though you fell massively far behind. So that's like really good. You should definitely feel good about that. Okay. Yeah, even this, by the way, I think it's kind of bad. You just need to really value this stun cooldown. If you stun this guy, I don't think anything comes of it. And obviously, I guess nothing's really going to happen in the next 10 seconds, but I just think you really need to think about it a lot more. You kind of just use it as if it's a basic ability, but honestly, if anything, like the reason Syndra ult is so broken is because it sets up for her E. Like E is Syndra's ultimate ability. It's just labeled as a basic ability. Okay. Yeah, I like this. I think here the good thing is you're hitting at least one of the two valuable targets. Yeah, so I like it. And actually your stun hit the Sivir as well. So this was super well played by you. Yeah, that was really nice. Get that kill. You guys get drag. Push bots. Okay, I mean you're kind of back in the game now. You do a little bit of damage. Yeah, you're actually really strong. I think E for wave clear is normally fine because people normally won't be around if you're just clearing a wave, but I mean if they are, obviously you have to be careful. But yeah. Okay, so fight breaks out top. Your team actually kind of does pretty well in this, despite you not being there, so that's good. I think you guys win this as soon as you get here. Yeah, you get the Sivir. Yeah, really nice. I think that was good team fighting. I think here, by the way, it's... You know how I was saying before how you want to look for the Alt-E combo in team fights? Here, it doesn't really make sense because there's pretty much only one target. You know, like if you're in a team fight, it's a 5v5. There's lots of people to stun. Looking for Alt and then E could be good. But here, it's like the only person you need to care about is Sivir. So, yeah, you might as well just stun her, which is good. I think you played that well. Yeah, you're even up levels on Sylas now, so that's great. We're just a bunch of farming. Skip ahead. Okay, you guys killed Lee and you want to start Baron. Okay, this is... I think this is good. Okay, he turned. Killed... Okay, I think again, this E doesn't make a whole lot of sense. Hmm. Maybe it's fine. I think... Okay, no, actually, I think it's kind of bad. So by this point, you should realize he's dead. Like, if this stun is needed to kill Ivan, it's probably worth it, because it kills their jungler, and then you guys can do Baron. But I think, again, you don't... Like, this guy is just dead. You don't need to invest stun into him. And that would make, if the fight continued any longer, a lot better. Yeah, I don't know. It's just... It's a really good habit, again, to start really valuing your E. because a lot of times it's gonna go wasted. But that is probably pretty much GG. You guys get Baron as long as you can stop this drag. So you base, you're building Rabadons. I think that's fine. I didn't see a ton of MR other than Sylas, but I mean he's kind of whatever. Yeah, I think this stun is really good. Like this is a high value target. And like clearly when you're stunning this guy, like he's not dead yet, right? Like this is not a 10% Lee Sin or a 10% Ivan before. So you really need ults. Yeah, I like that. I think it's worth using. This stun, I'm not too sure about. Problem is you have no vision. So who's alive? It's Gangplank, Ivan, and Lee. Okay, no, I think it's fine. I thought Sivir was alive and still up here. I think if Sivir was still here, you'd really need to hold your stun. That way, if she walked in, at least you have some threat for her. But given that Sivir's dead, I think it's fine to just stun that guy. But that's like the kind of thing I would be thinking about in the game. Yeah, that stun's fine. Okay, you guys get drag, and then you'll just like look to reset. It's funny how you've actually managed to get Magi stacks. I respect that. Your CS is good though. 280 at 32 when you're this far behind and you don't have TP. That's really good. So definitely keep doing this. It's really good side laning. Skip through this. And yeah, it looks like game's pretty just over. You're gonna get Rabadons. Yeah, you're actually really strong. Your team's kind of just ending anyway. Maybe here you just flash ult, whoever you see. Flash ult stun. Okay. Yeah, alright. So I think the really good news is honestly your mid game is quite good, and I don't think you have to worry too much about the mid game. I think the biggest things to work on is 100% the early game. And for the early game, I think it's stuff like, so cooldowns are a really big thing. I think warding slash hugging is a big thing. Wave control as well, especially like pre-6. I think that wave control could be a lot better. I think in general, you kind of just like push 3 waves and then like freeze on the bounce. I think that's like a really good habit to get into, but also just like, I guess, like adapting a bit. So, you know, if you fall behind, if you don't have flash, even if you wanted to push, you kind of can't anymore. And yeah, I think, yeah, I don't know. It was just like all that sort of stuff, like warding with the pink ward. Oh yeah, there was like a little bit of trading as well, just in terms of like, you know, trying to take trades that are just super one-sided to you. Um, what else do we have? Yeah, maybe a little bit of the early game priority usage as well. Sometimes I think you do push a wave and then don't really do anything with it. Like, let me actually just go back to a couple examples. So there was the time when you like crashed the wave and then didn't really get anything off it. So like right here, right? Normally you'd want to use this priority. Either you use it to just like destroy Sylas under tower, or you can use it to recall and come back with Darksteel, or you can use it to ward if you had one. I think the best is just to destroy Sylas, but the problem is you didn't really like commit to doing any of them. You kind of just did like half of everything. You just, yeah, I don't know, you're not really doing much to them. And then I think there was another time when, I don't know if you remember, but it was when you like cleared a wave and then Sylas just like used all his cooldowns on the wave and then you didn't walk into river. So yeah, sometimes that happens. Yeah, I think a little bit of maybe like itemization early too, and just like the buys. I think, yeah, so this is definitely a Doran's Ring matchup, and I think like Darksteel first base plus pink is really nice just for kind of giving you safety. Syndra specific stuff, I think the E usage needs to be thought about a lot. And it's kind of to do with cooldowns as well. You know, like if you just start valuing cooldowns, I think you kind of naturally value your E. But yeah, it can be kind of a good habit, I guess, just to really focus on that Syndra E. You know, there's a lot of champions like this where they're kind of they really hinge on one ability. So like another example would be the moment Zoe uses bubble, that's when people can start moving into it, right? Like if Zoe R's forward and uses E, now the assassin can jump on them or whatever, right? And there's maybe Victor W would be one if you're playing a champion that has a dash. Let's say you're playing this always happens in like Victor versus Lucian. The moment that Victor wastes his W, it's like 18 seconds or whatever that he can just be dashed on. So a lot of the time champions have that one ability that if they hold it, it creates a lot of pressure. So sometimes it can be better to hold it than to use it badly, just because it creates more pressure. So yeah, really think about that. I think team fights target priority is a pretty big thing. Like when that Civic kind of got to walk through there and not die, that was really crazy, I think. Um yeah, and maybe the last thing is just maybe get into the habit of like walking, if you walk past or past, yeah, like wait, is it past or past? Oh, well, anyway, if you walk ahead of halfway point of mid, it's really scary. Like even when you have wars, it can be kind of scary to walk past here, right? So if you don't have any vision, that's really scary, right? Like when I really think that when you come back to lane, you can think about a lot of stuff. You can think about how you want to trade, or you can think about, where do I have vision? And so when you came back and there was no vision on either side of mid and your jungler was like AFK clearing, that's like you should be thinking, okay, I need to get some vision really soon, or I'm just gonna die. And also, yeah, I think having the trinket, you normally don't swap to red trinket for a while. And honestly, sometimes you never swap to red trinket, and the reason is that it's really useful to have yellow trinket for side laning. Like what will often happen is in the early game, you start with your yellow trinket, you're providing wards for yourself, and then when your team starts to get enough vision, you swap to red trinket, and then you kind of just like provide enough vision for yourself with pinks. But then when you go back to the side lane, normally you swap back to yellow because it's really hard for you to push up these lanes without having, like a pink here and a green here or something. You were kind of you got away with it a bit this game because most of the time your team was just fighting on the other side of the map, and then you were just getting stuff bought. You were either 1v1 versus Gangplank, or you were just 1v0. But if it's like a closer game, especially if you're the one that's fed and the enemy team is playing towards your side, you really need that yellow trinket. And then when Baron's up, you can swap to blue, or you can swap to red. If like what I like to do is I kind of have like, yeah, yellow trinket up to maybe like 20 minutes, and then when Baron spawns, if my team's really ahead, I'll swap to red and then just like scan their jungle, right? But if my team's behind, I'll swap to blue because I'm gonna have to be the one checking it. So yeah. All right, that's kind of a lot of stuff, but do you have any questions about anything on here?
I mean, I don't know how to like. I just don't know how to practice these things at
Yeah.
all.
Okay. So I guess like okay, if we go through I'll like talk about like literally everything. So cooldowns, I think you literally just go in the game and be thinking like, I'm gonna whenever he uses a cooldown, I'm gonna think like what can I do with it? And whenever I use a cooldown, I'm gonna be thinking like, you know, do I need to move back or something like that. I think cooldowns is you just need to be really aware of it. It can also be really good, I think, if you just have a rough estimate of how long the enemy cooldowns are. Like if before the game, you open up the wiki and you're just like, okay, Sylas Q starts out at 11, Sylas W 12, and Sylas E 13. So the cooldowns are reasonably long, right? Like if you compare it to Syndra's, at least this was old Syndra, so like Syndra Q at this time is only 4 seconds, which means when he uses these, you actually have like, time to cast maybe 2 Qs before, potentially even 3 if you do it at the same time, before he gets those cooldowns back up. So I think that's like, yeah, I think that's kind of easy to work on. Let's see, warding and hugging. I think first you can kind of get into like a warding habit almost. So an example would be like 2:30 ward and 4-minute ward. Like those are really good ward timings because they keep you safe from most ganks. Like if you ward at 2 minutes 30, the ward lasts until I think it's about 3:55, and then you're gonna have your second ward to place at 4 minutes. So that can be really useful. For hugging, I think that is definitely a harder habit to build up. And how I would work on it would probably be like, okay, I wouldn't work on this to begin with because I think the cooldown is more important. But once you start working on it, it would probably be, maybe I'd go through the replay and just kind of just kind of look at times when you're maybe hugging the wrong side or like not hugging division. Like I would literally just, you play a game, you do whatever, and then just like skim through the replay on like 8 times speed or whatever, and just look at where you're doing and why you're doing it. And you'll probably just naturally realize that a lot of the time you're kind of in the wrong spot. And if that doesn't work, I think a habit you can get into is using something else that happens in the game kind of as a trigger. So like what I like to do is whenever the new wave comes mid, that's like my trigger to kind of look at the map. So you can try do something like that. I think that can work well. What else do we have? Wave control. I think this one is not too hard to work on. I think, yeah, now that you're aware of, it'll be a bit easier. Trading as well, I think trading is more like matchup dependent, so that just kind of you've just got to like think, how does my opponent trade? How do I trade? Like how do I actually want trades to go? That sort of stuff. Priority usage, I think this one is probably like you really want to plan what you like want to do with your prior like before you use it. So when you're pushing a wave, think about what am I going to use this priority for, and then you can go and do it. But 100% like there's a lot of stuff to work on here, right? And you only want to do one at a time, because if you try to work on your entire early game at once, it would be really impossible, I think. So yeah, one thing at a time. Itemization, easy to fix. Syndra specific kind of just comes with cooldowns, but also, yeah, I think just like whenever you're playing Syndra, be like really focused on how well you're using your E, and eventually it just kind of becomes a habit. Teamfight target priority, I think, yeah, so like before fight starts, number people like 1 to 5. So 1 being like the most important target, 5 being the least important. So even if you get the order wrong, at least you've thought about it. And most of the time, you can pretty much just set their mid and jump, or sorry, their mid and AD as 1 and 2, unless they're really behind, just because they're pretty much always going to be the highest damage. So that works as well. Going ahead of the halfway point of mid, it kind of just goes with the warning and stuff. I think you just get into a habit of it. So I think all of it is obviously if you work on all of it at once, it's really hard. But I think if you do one at a time, it's not too difficult. But yeah, does that kind of help or not really?
It does.
Okay.
I mean, I've been trying to work at things, one thing at a time and stuff.
Yeah.
And since this is an old bot, I've been having like given you a new one,
Yeah.
so uh, that's pretty much it.
Yeah. Okay. Well, you've definitely got like a lot of stuff to work on. And if you have like questions about it or anything, like you can obviously just message me later. So I'll copy this to you. Send you that on Discord there. Um, do you mind if I upload the session onto my coaching channel, or you prefer it's like private or whatever?
I don't mind.
Okay. And then do you want me to send you the link as well so you can go back and look at it or whatever?
Yeah. Sure.
Okay. Sweet. Well, yeah, I think that's everything. Now you have another session, I believe, at some point, so we can maybe, you know, either look at a newer VOD or we can go and see if like the stuff is improved. But yeah, I think that's pretty much it.
All right.
All right, sweet. Well, yeah, nice to talk to you, and let me know if you have other questions later. And other than that, good luck in solo queue.
Yeah, thank you. Have a nice day.
Yeah, you too. All right, see you later.
Yeah.
Bye.